On we are here. Just think of the time, ladies and gentlemen. You don't have to think about it. It is right now. It is right here. And we are continuing our series in The Keys to Manifesting. Manifest Your Destiny by Dr. Wayne W. Dyer. The 9 spiritual principles for becoming a manifester. But this is really more about a spiritual process of coming in harmony with that which we are already a part of and connected to. And so today we will dive into the section entitled Transcending Your Conditioning in the first principle of becoming a spiritual manifester, which is becoming aware of your highest self. Within you, each and every one of us, ladies and gentlemen, is a divine capacity to manifest and attract all that you need or desire. This is such a powerful statement that Dr. Wayne Dyer suggests that we reread and savor it before we begin this journey. Well, if you haven't done that, then do that now. But we have done that. And so let us continue our journey, reading from once again Dr. Wayne W. Dyer's Manifest Your Destiny for purposes of teaching and commentary and expanding the mind so that through an increased awareness we can increase the quality of our lives and the lives of those around us. Transcending our conditioning, ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Wayne Dyer begins by saying, like it or not, all of us have been conditioned to think and act in ways that have become automatic. We need to figure out how to get past this kind of conditioning if we want to gain access to our highest self. And once again, the purpose of this first principle is coming to know our highest self. And we can be sure the ego will not take well to this kind of effort, asking the ego to help diminish its own significance so that we might have access to our higher self is akin to attempting to stand on our own shoulders. It is something that seems backwards, contrary, and nearly impossible. And so ego is unable to move aside, Dr. Wayne Dyer continues, in difference to our spirit, as our eye is able to see itself, or the tip of our tongue able to touch the tip of your tongue. It's like the old a knife trying to cut itself. And so our task thus becomes a quagmire of paradoxes. But we love a good paradox here on this channel. And so, with this in mind, if we rely upon our ego to get past the influences of the ego, it will only strengthen its hold on us. And so we must figure out how to emancipate consciousness from the limitations of our mind and our body. We got to free our state of mind from our current state and body. Now, in the ego state, which is where we generally experience ourselves as a separate entity rather than seeing a connectedness, a oneness, and a harmony in things, to move past this conditioning, we want to begin to see ourselves as humanity itself rather than a separate individual form in a body. Very simply put, if you feel that you are disconnected from the rest of humanity, and I will add reality, and a truly separate entity needing to prove ourselves and compete with others, then we will be unable to manifest on purpose. And we will actually be able to manifest things that we really don't intend to do on accident. But Wayne Dyer states we will be unable if we are in this ego state of feeling like we are separate from everything else and everything is separate from us, and we need to conquer and command and prove ourselves and compete with others, we will be unable to manifest our heart's desire. Manifesting is not about getting things that are not here. See, this is another thing. A lot of people think about manifesting and say, I can create from nothingness a stack of money for myself. That's not it. It's not about getting things that are not here. It is about aligning and attracting what is already here and what is a part of you and us on a spiritual level. Remember, we've already learned that source and the cause. Here comes the kitten to say hello. Hello, Beans. Please don't step on the. Am I recording? Yes. Okay. I didn't even think I was recording. But the source and the cause for everything that we see in the physical realm comes from the realm of the unseen, or the world of waves. And that transfers to the world of particles. If you zoom in at the very smallest level, you will see that everything is some kind of force, some kind of energy force. And there is actually no solid matter anywhere at all. And so, with that being said, what we are truly is already here and is already a part of us on a spiritual level. It is about aligning and harmonizing to ourselves that which we desire, that which we wish to manifest. See, if we remain at this idea of separateness, that we are separate from everything else. Careful, careful, Beans. There you go. But then it blocks it. It is a blockage to the flow. And there's a lot of things that we will learn in this process about blockages to the quote unquote flow. But so it's not, if we remain in this separate perspective viewpoint, that which we wish to manifest will forever be unavailable to us, Dr. Wayne Dyer says. He continues, if you shift that awareness around and are able to see yourself as a part already of what you desire, then we will have transcended, gone beyond the conditioning of our ego and of all the other egos who have contributed to this process in our lives. With the realization of Source, Tao, God, Atum, Grand Organized Design, Great Spirit, doesn't matter what the name is because it is all names. But if we, with the realization of this, of God within ourselves, you not only dissolve your ego's identification as separate from that and everything else, but we leave behind the old ways of seeing ourselves. And as Dr. Wayne Dyer continues, as we awaken our highest self, our conditioning as a separate being will be overcome with practice. This is all about practice. Below are a few of the conditioned thoughts that will keep our ego in charge of our life and prevent us from materializing what we desire and what desires us. And so these are some ways, a few of the conditioned kind of thoughts that we have that keeps our ego in charge. And he puts 4 of these. So we'll go through these here now. The first way that keeps our ego in charge, one of the conditioned thoughts that we have, is number 1, that I am not in charge of my life. And that force that is outside of us somewhere. This kind of conditioned response to the circumstances of our lives puts the responsibility of it on something outside of us and becomes a handy excuse when our life is not going the way that we would like it to go. Oh, it's something else's fault, everybody else's fault. The universe is just conspiring against me, and there's just nothing that I can do to change anything. And so many of us have been told this and have been taught this and have been told again to be convinced of this and look for reasons that this is always the case, and then we begin to defend our miseries. Now, this is the most interesting thing to me because I even do it myself. As human beings, we seem to love to defend our misery. Someone will come to us and say, no, this is easy, simple solution here. You just do this. For some reason, we don't want a simple solution. We're like, no, you don't understand. This is the struggle, and this is terrible, and this, and I can't do anything about it. And they're like, no, obviously you can do this right here, and we still defend our misery. It's the most curious thing about us human beings. However, we can change this perception at any given moment and begin to trust that the vital force of the universe is exactly what you and me and each and every one of us are. What does that mean? Well, entertain this notion every day by noticing that the life force flowing through you And then turn your attention away from the ego-dominated thoughts about the circumstances of your life to the present moment by consciously noticing your breath. You breathe in, and then there's like a half a second before the breathe out. It's almost a couple milliseconds. And then same thing when you breathe in. And there's this reciprocity. It's almost like you have to give, and then you have to take, but then you have to give back. But noticing your breath and seeing how this takes away from the noticing of the ego and from this constant churning that, the monkey mind that's just constantly throwing thoughts everywhere around the place about the circumstances of our life and how there's nothing we can do about it and how it's all we need to begin to practice to take control of our own thoughts. Emotional states as well, but that's more practice later. It begins with a thought. If you recognize your thought and become aware, some call this mindfulness, watching your thoughts and detaching yourself from them personally and saying, where did that come from? Like, that's not how I feel. That's just a random thought that popped in. And so let it float away like a balloon or a train car going by. Entertain this notion every day by noticing the life force flowing through us, turning our attention away from the ego-dominated thoughts and focusing on the present moment by consciously noticing our breath, the sounds, the textures, the smells, and the scenes that the life force is experiencing through you. Practice stepping away from the thoughts about our life in any given moment and step into the experience of the life energy flowing through our senses. So number 2 on the conditioned thoughts that we have that will keep our ego in charge of our life and keep us from aligning with our higher self. We're coming to know our highest self, which is the first principle of manifesting. Number 2 is people cannot manifest. We've been told this and taught this, and it is all a function of the cosmic throw of the dice of reality or God or creation. Whatever you think is responsible for the creation and the continuing creation of all of this. But this is what we've been told that people cannot do this, and it's a function of the cosmic dice throw. This is a very popular idea, particularly those who are in less than propitious circumstances. Blaming luck or some external invisible force that controls the universe is a habit of conditioning that we have been taught and told, and this is a way to function that controls. See, we're blaming luck or something external. Remember, if it is something outside of ourselves, whether we want it or don't want it, there's nothing we can do about it because we don't have it. And so we need to begin to create, like I always say, the ability within ourselves to bring what it is we want to life rather than seeking and striving to get it somewhere else and then feeling, worthless, invaluable every time it goes away from us. It's like that old story of trying to keep the eternal lock and grasp on happiness, the kitten chasing its tail, or you could call it a dog. I like the kitten story, even though that's a little less common. But it's, the old alley cat tells the kitten that was like, if I get this lock on eternal happiness, which is located in my tail, then I'll finally have it. And the old alley cat said, I have learned that happiness is located in my tail, and it is the most important thing for a cat. But, he says, the difference between me and you is I've found that if I go about my business and do what it is that I know I need to do, it seems to follow me everywhere that I go. So keep in mind that you are not playing magic when you learn to manifest. You're simply manifesting a new aspect of yourself that has simply been hidden based on the conditions of our conditioning. And so, blaming luck or some external invisible force that controls the universe is a habit of conditioning, but this leads particularly to disempowerment, and ultimately you feel defeated. And so we will have to rid ourselves of this hallucination that we are powerless to do anything about this. You are the universe. It is not something outside of you. You are that force which is in everything, even the things that have previously failed to show up into your life. But remember, we are all manifesting all the time. Usually we are not manifesting on purpose, I would say almost all the time. And so, don't beat yourself up too bad about this. This is like, oh, I didn't know this before, but that's okay. Now, with new knowledge, I can begin to adjust my, path, so to speak. And so, remember, as you thinketh, as a man thinketh, as a woman thinketh, as you think, so shall you be. Thoughts, most important. If you think you can't, you're right. If you think you can, you are right. It is precisely what we will begin to see showing up in our lives for us. If we begin, or, if we believe truthfully for ourselves, and this is about personal beliefs and breaking down negative self-beliefs, if we believe that all we can ever do is, work in one field, and it's the only way that we can ever make any kind of living in our lives, then that is what will show up for us in our life. The universe doesn't care. It's not like, oh, sorry. It's like, no, whatever you are harmonizing with in your beliefs and your thoughts is what will appear for you. If you think terrible things all the time, the universe says here, terrible things all the time. This is the weirdest thing when it comes to our human perspectives of good and bad. And well, why is there so much of this? That's a different subject. But when it comes to manifesting, the universe is impartial. It's like whatever it is this kind of law of attraction thing to where if you constantly think you can't and everything is struggle, you will receive you can't and everything is struggle. If you are in that circumstance and switch your belief firmly to I can, and that I will learn how to deal with this struggle and see it as something different, as a stepping stone, an opportunity, you will begin to experience that for yourself. And this is the very weirdest thing about reality, because it is possible. Now, with that little ramble aside, remember, as you think, so shall you be. If you think you can't, you're right. And that is precisely what you will see showing up in your life. The results of I can't will lead to the next condition response. Number 3, which keeps us in the control of our ego and in the conditioning that we've been taught, is that I have tried this before and it's never worked for me. Dr. Wayne Dyer calls this the C syndrome, where somebody takes a basketball and they know they're terrible at basketball and they take one shot and they miss and they say, see, I just can't do this. But we all know if you took 4 weeks straight and you practiced taking shots, we would all say, see, you can do this. You just had to get over that conditioning that we've all been given, the response that, oh, I've tried before and it never works for me. See, here the conditioned response is believing that once having tried and failed, further efforts will yield the same results. A key word in this thought is try. Remember, trying to most of us means some kind of struggling or working at it, giving it a lot of effort and setting goals and so forth. Just for a moment, once again, I'm reading the words of Dr. Wayne W. Dyer from Manifest Your Destiny for purposes of teaching and commentary and expanding the mind, so that through an increased awareness, we can increase the quality of our lives. And then I'm also paraphrasing as I add my own thoughts as we go through here. Just for a moment, stop and try to pick up a pencil from the table. Just try to pick it up, and you will find that there is no such thing as trying. The old Yoda quote, what is it? There is no try, just do. There is no try in doing. Put the correct version of that in the comments for me because it's very relative. It's very relative. I mean, just try to pick up the pencil. And you will find that there is no such thing as trying. You either picked it up or you don't. Period. I mean, you could say, oh, yeah, trying was the whole part of the process. But simply, you picked it up or you didn't. What you call trying to pick it up is simply not picking up the pencil, or whatever it is in this case. So, what we need to do is begin to let go of our obsession with the past and with trying. The boat. See, there's a good lesson Dr. Wayne Dyer teaches about the past and how the past is like a big bag of manure that we hold along with us. And it's terrible and it stinks and it smells. But for some reason, once again, back to defending our misery, we love to reach into this bag and say, look at how terrible all the things I've gone through are. And it's important to realize that our past is just that. It is behind us. It is the wake that leaves the boat. The motor is what drives the boat. Is the motor in the wakes behind the boat? No, it is connected to the back of the boat. So you may say it is still behind the boat, but is not left in the wakes. The wakes are our past. And now I ask the question, do the wakes drive the boat? No. So personally, we have to realize, does our past drive our life? No. It is what we choose to use to propel us as the motor in each of the present moments of our lives. Now, once again, if you didn't know this and you haven't been living from this point, which is very difficult, and we all struggle with this. I'm no master. I'm just learning this on this journey with you as well. So thank you for being here and joining me and seeking after truth and knowledge and wisdom from such great authors and poets and mystics and philosophers and sages of the ages. But most importantly, the wake doesn't drive the boat. It's not our past that drives our life. And so with realizing that, we need to begin to become the motor and live from the present moment and begin to go forward from there. This is difficult. This is a process and it takes a lot of contemplation. So begin now. Begin now. But I find that important and key to this whole trying thing, because we will often blame that we've tried this before and nothing ever works for me. Let go of our obsession with the past and with trying, and instead remain relaxed and casual in the boat or in the present moment. Remember, you row your boat gently. We're relaxed in the present moment in the boat down the stream. We're not frantically going wild trying to row up the stream. This is how so many of us live our lives, and we could see the disaster or disassociation from the astral, which is a lack of harmony. You know what I mean. The stress, the frustration, the struggles. It seems like you're butting your head against the wall so often. As we're not gently rowing down the stream, we are frantically attempting to row up the stream. But if we can get back into the present moment, letting go of our ego obsessions with getting ahead, dominating, controlling, being the best, separate from everything else, everything's against us, and we can change and transform into this perspective of we are connected to everything, and there is a harmony and a purpose for the things that we must go through, grow through, and we can release from our conditionings of the thoughts that we are not in charge of our lives, and that force is something outside of us, and come to know that we are connected to that, and that is a part of us. And then we can learn that we can manifest, and that not everything is just a throw of the cosmic dice of reality and circumstance and chance. And number three, that we learn that even though we have tried before and that things haven't worked, that we can try again. We learn to go beyond the thought that I have tried and it has never worked for me. Let go of your obsession with the past and with trying, and instead remain relaxed and casual and in the moment, noticing your life force minus your judgments and explanations. No judgments, no explanations needed. You will see good multiply as needed. When you come to know that you are not powerless to make it happen, the universe is rich with abundance that will be provided to you when you let go of the strong, remember, it's like really strong personal beliefs. When you believe and live from a perspective, that is what you will get. And so when we can begin to change that and come from a new perspective of abundance rather than scarcity, of positivity rather than negativity, we will find what we look for, because there is plenty of everything in reality. The universe is rich with abundance that will be provided to you when you let go of reasoning that says your past must be your present. The reason that you have been unsuccessful in manifesting what you want is because you are attached to the idea that is erroneous. That leads to a different book of his entitled Your Erroneous Zones, which was his very first book, which is what got him started into all this wonderful work, and I am so thankful for it. Thank you, Dr. Dyer. But keep in mind, our past is an illusion. I mean, how good is your memory anyways? And then when we look at the things we remember, we find out we left out about 1,000 details. Like, oh yeah, that kind of accounts for that. However, we are attached to the idea our past is an illusion. It is the trail left behind you. And a trail behind you, just as the wake behind the boat, cannot drive you today, regardless of what you choose to believe about that. What you choose to believe about that in the present moment is what's driving you today, not the past. Okay? All you have, all and each of every one of us has is right now. These moments, and what we do with our present moments is what stacks up and creates what we describe as our life. So if we put in this work and this effort that we're doing right now, right here, and thank you for joining me, give yourself a pat on the back, we can begin to change the quality of our moments, and over time begin to change the quality of our lives. I mean, it just makes sense. That's the only reason I say that all the time. And I'm trying to remind myself, moments, because in the moments we're distracted, and we're not in the moments. We're like, oh yeah, this and that, and right here, right now. Like, not what's going on an hour from now, not what yesterday, right here. It is the trail left behind you. Your past is an illusion, and a trail behind you cannot drive you today, regardless whether or not you believe it's so. And all you have is now. All you have ever tried. Wait. He says, all you have is now, and you have never tried anything. Yes, remember, trying. An illusion. You either do it or you don't do it. Simple. You simply haven't done it yet. You can now shift that reasoning right out of our world of that I've tried before and it's never going to work again. Because even though we've tried, we just simply haven't done it yet. And that's okay. Like, a lot of this can make you feel really shitty about yourself. But the most important thing is when you come to that aha and realization that you're perfect and whole in each moment. And it's okay that you may have, you know, it's okay. No matter what it is. It's like we can drive the boat now. We can begin to function as a new motor. I know it's I know it's work, ladies and gentlemen, but we can get there with the practice. Now, number 4, on the conditioned thoughts that we tell ourselves that keep us, in ego, separate, and unable to manifest for ourselves is the idea that, oh, only highly evolved beings can do this kind of thing, manifesting or creating their life on purpose with focused intentions, desires, and thoughts. This is the ego saying that we are separate and distinct from our spiritual teachers and others who live at these higher levels. I mean, if you're not a spiritual person, then like CEOs and very successful, high level business people or whatever, we almost like put these people in a different category of non-people. There's people, they trip on their shoelaces and, accidentally knock their shoulder into the wall, and they're stupid as we all are. I mean, unless there is different subjects for that, but I mean, we're all just people out here, okay? And some of us have the different circumstances of life than others, but that doesn't mean that we don't all struggle through things that we need to go through to grow through. So, this idea that there's these other people that we are separate and distinct from, and these other people live at these highest levels, even though every spiritual practice encourages us to see the divine within ourselves, to know that we have in us, you have in you, ladies and gentlemen, the same mind as your master, and to discover the kingdom of quote unquote heaven within yourself, your ego cannot buy it. It is sold on separateness, and it convinces us that we are less than those highly ranked or highly evolved beings that we've heard about. Well, begin to relinquish those thoughts and replace them with seeing ourselves as connected to everyone by that unseen force that is responsible for everything that we see here in reality. That is our divine essence, and refuse to put others either above or below ourselves, but instead see them not as equals, but as you. Begin to see ourselves in what is described sometimes as the many distressing disguises of God. It is necessary to grasp this idea firmly before we can experience the ability to create and manifest. These are a few of the thoughts that swirl around in our head whenever we contemplate the idea of having what we want and need want and need you. Wait, what? These are a few of the thoughts that swirl around in our head whenever we contemplate the idea of having what you want and need you. See, this is a harmonization idea. It's like what you want and need can want and need you. The first spiritual principle directs us to overcome our conditioning. It requires us to adopt a new attitude about ourselves and then to put this attitude into daily practice. That's really what it comes down to, ladies and gentlemen, the daily practice. Dr. Wayne Dyer is encouraging us to know our highest self rather than to read about it and to hear about it and to think about it, but come to know it. To know it in the deepest riches of our being, and then to never again doubt it. Having a philosophy is useless unless if it is simply an awareness of rituals. Having a philosophy is useless if it is simply just an awareness of rituals and the teachings of experts. To make your philosophy, to make this philosophy work for you, it must become an energy pattern that we use in our daily life. So once again, learning about all these philosophies is almost useless unless we can begin to make it an energy pattern or a part of our daily activities and our daily thought processes in our life. It must have both an eternal truth to it as well as a utilitarian quality that makes us feel, yes, I know this to be true because I apply it and it seems to work for me, even on the smallest levels. And this is how we can begin to convince our ego and ourselves that this whole thing about manifesting or changing our lives by changing our thoughts, change your thoughts, change your life, living the wisdom of the Tao by Dr. Wayne Dyer. But when we change the way that we look at things, the things that we look at change, even if they're the very same things for somebody else. It is the way that we experience them, and the way that we take it in our mind and process it for ourselves. And then we can begin to have this feeling of, aha, I know this is true because I apply it and it works. And you do have a highest self. And you can know this highest self in both the seen and the unseen dimensions of our life, which is what we talked about last week and the week before as well. But we can know this highest self in both the seen and the unseen realms of our lives. Once we are convinced of this, the belief that the ego is the dominant motivating force in our life will begin to lose its grip and lose its hold and eventually lose its power over us. And finally, Dr. Wayne Dyer next week will give us a few suggestions. Nah, we're almost done with this chapter. Let's just run through it real quick. All right. I encourage you to follow these suggestions for developing this first principle as a permanent part of your total awareness. This plan of action worked for me, Dr. Wayne Dyer says, and if I encounter doubt, I return to this 4-point plan. It always reacquaints me, he says, with my highest self. And I'll run through these, hopefully without interrupting real quick. How to know your highest self without any doubt. Number 1, here's a great definition of enlightenment: to be immersed in and surrounded by peace. Your highest self only wants to be at peace. It does not judge, compare, or demand that you defeat anyone or be better than anyone. It only wants one thing. What is that? To be at peace. And so, whenever you are about to act, ask yourself this question: is what I'm about to say or going to do bring me peace? If the answer is yes, then go with it, and you will be allowing yourself to follow the wisdom of your highest self, the spirit. If you answer no, then remind yourself that what you are about to say or do is your ego at work, your lowest self, or lower self. The ego promotes turmoil because it wants to sustain our identity of separateness from everyone, including God. Remember, this was a survival subconscious programming, so if we didn't have this, we wouldn't have fared well as a species surviving in physical reality. But now that we're relatively safe here in reality and there isn't any tigers, even though we live with that kind of stress about our finances and our modern lives, like there's some kind of tiger that's going to jump out of any corner, and this kind of survival instinctual programming. See, I'm rambling again. All right. The ego promotes turmoil because it wants to sustain that separateness, including God. It will push us in the direction of judgment and comparison, and cause us to insist on being right and being the best. But we know that our highest self, by listening to the voice, only wants you to be at peace, ladies and gentlemen. Number two, how to know and remind yourself of your highest self without any doubt is go beyond the restrictions of the physical plane. The purpose of the highest self is to assist us in this effort. We do this by creating an inner sanctuary that is ours and ours alone. Go to this silent inner retreat or begin building it now as often as you can, twice a day. They say brush twice daily. Work on and build your inner sanctuary, the silent inner retreat, and begin building it every day. And begin to let go of all the attachments to the external world of the ego. As we go to this sanctuary, a light will be born within us that we will come to know and to respect. This light is your connection to the energy of the source, of God, of manifestation. It is like taking a bath in pure light, Dr. Wayne Dyer says. You will feel this energy as you go silently within. Could be a personal meditation practice, just getting silent with yourself and shutting off, once again, the monkey mind. That was a previous step, though. Once again, this goes in order. Remember, the light is not of the earthly plane, the physical realm. It will help us to go beyond the realm of the seen to that of the unseen within our minds. Remember, there are three planes, the physical plane, the mental plane, and the spiritual plane, and we can oscillate or go back and forth between these. Remember, you cannot, though, go beyond the earthly plane if you are still the real you, the unseen you, can attract the energy of the sun, the wind, and all that is celestial. That was a very vague way of ending that idea, but I think you get the idea. Number three, about how to know our highest self without any doubt. Refuse to defend yourself to anyone or anything on the earth plane. Don't complain, don't explain. You don't have to defend yourself. I mean, sometimes if you don't, people kind of take advantage of that, but that's also a different subject. Once again, spiritual philosophy here. We're talking about coming to know our highest self as the first step of becoming a manifester, a creator, a manager of the conditions of our lives. Refuse to defend yourself to anyone or anything on the earth plane. You must learn to stay within your higher energy pattern, regardless of what goes before you in the material world. Remember the old saying of the master, the guru of Nazareth. He said, be in the world, but not be of the world. And so I think this is a similar idea. This means that we become like the unknown sage who refuses to lock horns with anything on this physical plane. The old metaphor of the two bulls butting heads and locking horns, struggling against each other valiantly to show who is better or greater than the other. We must go beyond this ego conditioning that we have been taught and sold to believe that this is the way that we are and the way that life is. Conditioning. Now, this is the challenge of the highest self, and it is beyond the reality system that we probably identify as material and as form. Dr. Dyer says, use your inner light for our alignment and allow those who disagree with that perspective to have their own points of view, which is fine. You are at peace. You never explain, and you refuse to flaunt your energy. You know it, and that is enough for you, that you know it. You don't have to tell anybody else, and often that blocks the flow. It's a distraction. Fourth, finally, surrender and trust in the wisdom that created you. I'm going to say that twice more. Trust in the wisdom that created you, and that is responsible for everything. Once again, surrender and trust in the wisdom that created you. You are developing a faith that transcends. Excuse me. All righty. A little choked up there. You are developing a faith that transcends the beliefs and teachings of others. And if you remember, this goes back to the tribe. Like we here in society, we're all part of like this tribe. And if we want to go beyond the evolution rate of everybody else, there's going to be a lot of people that look at us and say, well, this is ridiculous. This is impossible. You can't do that. That's not allowed. Can't go beyond us. I mean, if you go out to everybody and you're like, listen, look, I have manifested and created these things for myself, and this is a possibility and an opportunity for all of you. Everybody's going to feel pretty stupid. And so they can't allow this. You cannot evolve faster than the rest of us. And so doing this process is doing just that. And so what we must do is develop a faith within ourselves that transcends the beliefs and the teachings and the dogmas and the conditionings of others, the masses of the tribe, of society. And then this trust becomes our own corner of freedom, and it will always be yours. Once you create it, remember, going back to that sanctuary and creating this sanctuary within yourself and going to this silent inner retreat as often as you can, twice daily. And it will always be yours then. And no one can access it. No one can screw it up. In fact, it is so important that it is the subject of the second principle of manifestation, which we will read about when we turn to the next section. So finally, ladies and gentlemen, to sum up the first principle of becoming a manifester, becoming a creator and a manager of the circumstances of your life, coming to know your highest self. Your highest self is not just an idea that sounds lofty and spiritual. It is a way of being. It is the very first principle that we must come to understand and embrace as we move towards attracting to ourselves, to you, that which you want and need for this quote-unquote parentheses in eternity that we know as our lives. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is a boom to the keys and the first principle to manifesting and the wisdom of Dr. Wayne W. Dyer. The second principle will be trusting yourself and trusting in the wisdom that created you. Learning to trust may be difficult in the beginning, ladies and gentlemen. And we will dive into that one next week. Next episode on this series of the keys to manifesting here on the channel. That, ladies and gentlemen, was a boom to manifesting and coming to know your highest self. See, I think this whole business of the principles of manifesting really could have nothing to do with manifest. It could be more about becoming more in harmony and connected with our internal space, our divine essence, our spirit, and that which we are connected to, and the oneness and the harmony of everything. But once again, it's all a matter of perspective. You've got your perspective. I mean, don't you just want to be happy? All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. I love and appreciate each and every one of you. Remember to seek to achieve and maintain happiness through enlightenment, through a greater awareness and understanding of the nature of ourselves, psychology, spirituality, the nature of reality, so that through this increased awareness, we can increase the quality of our lives and the lives of those around us as well. Remember to seek to discover the lost wisdom of the ages and the mysteries of our history. And keep in mind also the great Dr. Wayne Dyer teaching that I remind us of every episode on this channel is that there is no way to happiness. I'm saying, what? We've been talking about that this entire time. It's because happiness is the way. Remember, is where we create the ability within ourselves to bring to life. And then all those things we've been talking about, so, oh, when I get this much and have that and get that, then I'll finally be happy. That becomes irrelevant because then we are there. And hopefully that entire journey is wonderful. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I love and appreciate each and every one of you that spends time here with me on the channel and supports what we do. We only get a couple hundred views on these videos, sometimes less, sometimes more, but it's not like we're reaching thousands and thousands of people. So it means a lot to me, those few of you that find this style of presentation and my own presentation entertaining, informative, educating, whichever one of those things. But I really appreciate your time because once again, time and attention are the most valuable things for us in reality. Maybe underneath that of peace. I've never thought about that before, but maybe peace is far more valuable than time or attention. I'll leave you with that thought, ladies and gentlemen. Be sure to expand the description below the video box and hit more, and you will find yourself a link to the book so you can get it for yourself to put it on your shelf. That is an Amazon affiliate link, so I make a few cents off of those if you'd like to support me in that way, getting yourself a physical copy for reference, or you can follow along in future episodes of this series, and as well a link to my Etsy shop and my landscape paintings. I also have CLC Paint YouTube channel if you'd like to learn to paint with me. I have full hour-long tutorials on there, Bob Ross style. And then also a link to C60 Power, the ultimate antioxidant known to man. Give yourself the gift of health. And if you've never even heard of that, look it up and read a few things on it. You'll go, wow, this is amazing. But we'll leave it there. I also have a Patreon, but I haven't done nothing on there yet. So if you join me, give me a reason to do something there. All right. Love and appreciate each and every one of you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much. Until next time, be the change that you want to see. Be the example that you want to set. No, 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 no.